Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining, both on Twitter Spaces as well as, hang on, let's see if I can put this, maybe it's okay. I'll try to just talk loudly so that this gets recorded everywhere. I'm recording from home today. Look at my home office, or my studio. Got speakers and pianos and guitars and such around here. But yeah, excited to talk about a couple things today. There's some shifts that have happened in my mind, as well as which impacts probably every contract, every client, everybody that we're going to be working with, just a little bit, right? In terms of at least how I envisioned it. And maybe other people are smarter and they're already there, which is likely the case. But I want to talk a little bit today about what Web3 really is, and what it isn't. And I'm just going to do that for maybe the first few minutes here, and we'll review together. We'll jump online and we'll do some Google research. I'll share my screen and I'll try to speak as best as possible to the Twitter Spaces people that can't see my screen. But then I want to examine how Web3 can be applied to a bunch of different categories of groups. We've built the Ocavu network, and we're continuing to build the Ocavu network, so that it can serve a broad range of groups. And we have groups like Brigham Young University, which is an athletic approach, university athletics, sports teams. We have brands that want to work with us that we'll be announcing soon. We have influencers that some of which I've alluded to and spoken about. We have tech companies that want to work with us, and so on. There's different groups and different ways to use Web3. And so what I'll do is I'll do my best to just throw out ideas and examples of how these different groups can and should use Web3, and some of the things we are doing today and some of the things we're still planning on doing. But I just want to get a bunch of ideas out there. And if you take these ideas and you run off and do something great with them, then that's, mission accomplished. That's what we want. If you find that you want to do something with what we're up to, and you want to reach out to us, then do that too. But bottom line is we built the Ocavu network to really help usher in this next layer of the internet. We talk a lot about Web 1 being, the first, just a read only internet, and Web 2, the read write internet, and not surprisingly, Web 3 is being presented to the world in ways that aren't fully taking advantage of what Web 3 can be. Let me give an example with Web 2. Web 2, well, actually, we'll go back to Web 1. We'll do this in order. But Web 1 was the big misconception by the masses when it first came out, was that it was just the internet was online brochures. And by the way, that was a pretty awesome pitch back then, right? Hey, take your brochure, throw it online, do this little internet address, push publish, boom, instantly the whole world can see it and you can get your message out faster. Online brochures are going to be amazing. They're going to change the world, right? And yeah, they weren't wrong. Online brochures are a great thing, right? You can talk about what you want to talk about and put it out there for people. But the internet obviously was so much more than that. Web 2, then a lot of people kind of just plop social media as Web 2. Web 2 equals social media. And the reality is it's really the read-write capability of the internet. So it's much, much broader than social media. The bigger parts of Web 2 are things like it's user-generated content as a whole, right? So you have things like Kickstarter, Google Maps, Yelp, YouTube, Craigslist, Wikipedia, right? Things that allow people to write to the internet and create incredible new ways to do things. And that's pretty awesome, right? To be able to actually change the internet, right, is what the write capability is. And now we have this ownership capability, read, write, own, that defines Web 3. But I think even there, we're missing what Web 3 actually is. Or better yet, I think certain groups out there have taken the term Web3 and turned it into something that it was not. And by the way, I am very guilty of having, just accepted their definition of Web3 and not really tried to understand it myself. So with that being said, let's dive in just for a second. Let's just open up a web browser here, and let's see here. Let's go new tab here, and then we'll go share screen. So if you just type in what is Web3, let's just see what happens, right? And I haven't prepared for this specifically, but look, let's click on it here, right? So Web3, also known as Web 3.0, right, is an idea for a new iteration of the World Wide Web, which incorporates concepts such as decentralization, blockchain technologies, and token-based economics. Okay, so that's fine. That's very similar to what we've talked about a lot, but I think there's a lot more missing here. There's another term called the semantic web. Okay, and if you come here, right, the semantic web, sometimes known as Web 3.0, not to be confused with Web 3. So there you have two already confusing things. You have Web 3 and Web 3.0. But the semantic web is actually very simple. It means that machines are talking to machines with a language that they understand, or as a programmer, if you're a programmer out there, basically it means opening up endpoints that are very easy to read and see, right? There's a lot of things out there today that have open endpoints, but the vision of Web 3.0, the real next iteration of the internet, is a much more open and interconnected internet because of the availability of data, right? Is to make data machine readable. That's the goal. The goal of the semantic web is to make internet data machine readable, which then allows any machine or program or computer or metaverse or blockchain or whatever it is to be able to talk to each other. When Seek first said, hey, we're going to support we're going to support this next layer of the internet. We're going to support NFTs. We're going to do all this stuff. One of my very first hypotheses was that because Seek in its form at the time, a year ago, before we were Ocavu, Seek at that time was very focused on 3D models, only just 3D, augmented reality, virtual reality, metaverse, all of the kind of behind the scenes infrastructure that powers 3D. That was really the idea, was to say, hey, how can we support with our technology this next iteration, or NFTs? And I said, I came to the conclusion that I think a big role that our company can have is helping 3D content be cross metaverse compatible. That was our kind of next iteration. We had been doing cross platform for a long time, and we still do that. But adding the metaverse to this was going to take us to the next level. And that was going to be made possible through NFTs. Why? Because blockchain is publicly available data. And if we could store our 3D models on the blockchain, they would become publicly available. And therefore, if I owned a 3D version of this Nike shirt or this Tiger Woods cap, then I could take that with me from metaverse to metaverse, because each individual metaverse would be able to read to a publicly available blockchain and understand that I, John Cheney, own that. I own that 3D item, and therefore, or that NFT, right? And therefore, I would be able to move that back and forth, right? And so blockchain is inherently Web3, but Web3 is not blockchain. You can make a Web 2 database, Web 2 if you want to call it that, Web 1. You can make a standard database that isn't on the blockchain, Web 3 compatible, by opening up endpoints that are readable by machines, right? That make that data machine readable, or in other words, that allow it to connect to that. So I could create a database that's completely open that then creates different connections to different metaverses and different compatibilities out there. and I could accomplish the same thing. I could accomplish a Web 3.0 mission of making that information machine readable, and then allow computers to talk to each other. So really what it is, that I think is the problem with a lot of people when they talk about Web3, you go to a Web3 conference, right? Is they're just going there, they're talking about NFTs, they're talking about OpenSea, and they're talking about Gary V, and they're talking about all these, this is the future of NFTs. Web3 is not just NFTs. And in fact, I would argue that lots of NFTs and the things that they're doing are not Web3 at all. They're happening inside of closed ecosystems, which are not a closed ecosystem like Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or World of Warcraft or Fortnite. Any of these, metaverses are not Web3 compatible in the slightest, because they're not interchangeable. They're not machine readable, because their creators have made them closed walled gardens. That's really important. So when we talk about wanting to make a Web3 community, a decentralized community using Web3 principles and technologies and approaches, we have to create a system that is completely inherently open and built by probably microservices with endpoints that then connect to tons of other endpoints and microservices out there, like like news article places, Yahoo, MSN, whatever. We can, those agencies, those different places where you can find news, can become Web3 compatible by opening up machine readable endpoints and allowing for the internet to become more and more automated and connected. And therefore, automated is what I'm looking for, is the word I'm looking for. And it allows for things like AI, whatever your, belief system is around AI, whether it's good or bad, allows for things like AI to start coming up with solutions, which sounds scary, but ultimately that is where the world is going, is to be more interconnected. Now, there are limits on this. There are absolutely limits on what type of information should be publicly available and readily available. And that's why there are certain types of Web3 elements, or things that are in our lives that, as they progress to this Web3 interconnectedness, will need their own kind of special treatment. And that would be something like a driver's license or a passport or a medical record, right? And those will be NFTs, but they will be, some of you may have heard the term soulbound NFTs. That belongs to me. I can't take my medical record and sell it to, Mike Snow, my co-founder. Not that he would want my medical record. I promise you he wouldn't. He's way healthier than me. But I can't sell that. That's going to be soulbound. That's going to stay with me. And then I will have access to my record. So I've gotten a couple surgeries this year. And by a couple, I mean like 4. And it's just been a crazy year for me. And so, but I've had to go through different medical systems, right? So I've had to work with some here in Utah with one group and another group, and they have their own little portals and their own, again, closed walled gardens, things like that. But I realized in all of this that I don't own my medical record. If I wanted to just take my medical record and transfer it to somebody, yes, I can ask that somebody else transfers that for me. But what they're going to do is they're going to transfer it from this system to another system, neither of which I own. I'm asking these systems to move it for me. And that's kind of crazy. That's kind of insane. I think there's some innovation to be done there. I'm not going to take that on because I don't have expertise in the medical field. But if somebody listening to me has the expertise there, please do it. I want to be able to own my record and then be able to choose when a doctor can have access to a specific part of my record, and then when I can take it back as well on the flip side. So I think there's incredible things that are going to happen here, but you can see that there's this data issue that's out there that really, it's big problems. They're big problems that are going to take billions of dollars to fix, and will create billions of dollars of wealth, of new wealth for people that create those solutions. So with this new paradigm in mind about how the blockchain is not Web3, but it can be Web3 because it's inherently open. And therefore, if I build a solution, a Web3 solution that points at the blockchain and picks from the blockchain and uses the blockchain and maybe even writes to the blockchain, that's great. I can build a Web3 thing on the blockchain. But you can really build any database, any system, any game, anything that you want to be readable by machines. And then you've got a Web3 system, you've got a Web3 game, right? And so games that are out there today that are saying, we don't want NFTs and we don't want all that, fine, they can say that. But the reality is, if there's a lot of games in the very near future, I'm seeing more and more AAA titles entering the Web3, the web NFT space, the blockchain gaming space. And I think these other game models are going to find that people like owning their stuff and like having interoperability. And if they don't jump into, the interoperability element, then they're not going to be part of Web3 and they'll be left behind, like others that have not, not jumped in. So anyway, I hope that didn't lose anybody. If there's any comments or questions or anything, please feel free. By the way, on let's see here, let me make sure I'm monitoring this properly on Twitter here. If there's any comments or someone that wants to speak up on Twitter Space, is great. And then of course here on Zoom, if you have questions, feel free to, I think there's a Q&A thing there, and I'll make sure I try to monitor it, and somebody can maybe message me or text me if I don't see it. Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk about a few of these different categories and how to take on, how to bring Web3 to different types of organizations. We'll start with sports because I think sports is fun, and I think we happen to have a lot of experience. So by a lot of experience, I mean we're just getting started. But sorry, my phone just rang. I hope I didn't cut off Twitter Spaces for a second. I just pushed end. But we're all still learning. So anything that I say is just my opinion. I hope that they're opinions based on some facts that are out there, and I think they're fairly educated opinions, because I've spent a lot of time looking at these things, and we spent a lot of time trying to answer the hard questions. There's a lot of hard questions that we're trying to answer right now as a company in Ocavu. And we're just trying to make sure that we create real value for everybody that's involved. Ultimately, I think that a lot of these things are going to have some overlapping threads. And so I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to say, yeah, just like this, it's, and one of those things that I think is a common thread between any organization that's wanting to move into Web3 and wanting to, maybe even start their own crypto token or launch an NFT marketplace or, do any of those things. Again, I'm not saying that those technologies don't belong in Web3. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. But they are not in and of themselves alone Web3. They're just a couple examples, just like I was talking about earlier, where Web1 is much more than internet brochures, and Web2 is much more than just some social media sites. It's so much more. Those are just specific applications of the next iteration of the internet. And Web3, NFTs, marketplaces, crypto tokens, DAOs, all of those things are all things that are coming out, and some are working, some are broken, some have yet to be discovered. So I believe that the things that we do with Web3, the best things that we do with Web3 have yet to be discovered. So I'm excited to be part of that process. But anyway, so as I share these things, please don't take them as doctrine, but hopefully I can help spark some ideas. One common thread that I find between everything is the desire for fans or customers, which I would define as the fan of a brand, right? So we'll just call them fans, to connect with the creators of the brand or of the music or of the sport or of the whatever it is, right? Or not that they're creating the sport, but they're the ones that are out there throwing the passes and hitting the home runs and stopping the balls from going into the goal. People want to connect. I think ultimately that's what they want, to connect in more real ways. Twitter was a smashing hit when it came out, because all of a sudden I could follow and tweet to the biggest, most famous people in the world. And occasionally they would, they would get back. And the reality was people just loved that they could throw something out there and tag somebody. Today, it's the internet is so, first of all, covered in bots. And so that makes it hard. But there's so much noise out there. There's so many people. Like if you're somebody who has 50 million followers, right? How do you even begin to connect with your users? It's very, very hard, right? You can throw out a picture of yourself by the pool or drinking a root beer on a night out with the boys or whatever, right? You can post things for the world to see and get a bunch of attention and likes and all kinds of things. And there's plenty to discuss about how, the merits of that and virtues of those activities. But the reality is there's very little real connecting happening. And people feel that. People that are the influencers, people that follow influencers feel a void. A lot of times they don't know that they feel a void, but they're lacking in real communication, in real connection with those people, because it's all just kind of one way going to nowhere almost, right? There's no connection where those messages are coming out at the same time. And like I'm sitting here talking to you as if you're sitting in the same room, or even across on a Zoom call. I'm more connected than all of you guys that are listening on here on Twitter Spaces. And that's great. In small groups, that's fine. But when there's a certain threshold where it becomes impossible, it becomes very, very difficult to really connect with people. Glenn Beck, the talk show host that used to be on Fox News and now has his own networks. I don't listen to him a lot, but I see him around from time to time. But I think he started The Blaze. I could be wrong on that. Please don't judge me based off of my facts around that. But I did some research around him and learned recently that Glenn Beck, when he was at Fox News, was making $5 million a year in his last year when he was there. Okay. That's awesome. He's doing great. He's pulling in, what is that? $400,000 a month. It's a lot, right? Most people are plenty happy with that. But he saw an opportunity that back in, I think it was 2016, a lot of people thought was insane. He decided to leave Fox News and start up his own thing. Not that that's insane, starting up your own thing, but he believed he could make much more money that way. And people were like, no way, you have the biggest news network out there, 180 million listeners. How are you gonna even approach that? And he said, well, I don't need 180 million. I need 1% of that. I just need 1.8 million. And if they're all paying me $20 a month, I'm going to make way more money. And so he went out and he created a premium following that included him doing a daily show and whatever else he did. Again, I'm not a subscriber, so I can't tell you exactly what it was, but I can tell you this: the numbers that he came out with were incredible. He made $43 million his first year out of Fox News. 5 million to 43 million. Why? It's because he focused on the top 1% of his followers, and just the top 1% of his followers created 8-9 times the value for him. Right? I believe that Glenn Beck was way ahead of his time. He's not the only person to have done it. It's just an example I'm throwing out there. But I believe that type of a future is much better. Not only do those top 1% get better content, they get more content, they get to dive deeper in the issues. There also are opportunities where you can subscribe even higher and you can get even more. You can have more one-on-one opportunities. You can go to, in-person appearances and shows and backstage access and all of those things. And it's only going to be, again, the top 1% of the top 1% that engage at that level. But those that really crave and yearn to connect with somebody in real life, or even virtually, but more of that personal direct connection, are going to do much better. And so the way that the Ocavu network is built, the reason I shared that is because it provides the background of a lot of the thinking for how the network is built. We've built it in a way that communities can create a more direct connection so that they can communicate with their fans and that fans can communicate with them, and that there can be unique experiences offered at different tiers and different levels, and even let the market set the prices for what those things are. So back to athletes and sports. Your BYU, you've got 21 amazing teams out there: football, basketball, soccer, baseball, gymnastics, swimming, diving, whatever, all the different things. Can't name them all, but they're all awesome. And if you're a big BYU fan like me, even though I'm wearing red today, I might be willing to pay $500 or $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever it is to have unique experiences with those teams. And the Ocavu network is built to be able to provide digital assets, not for the purpose of buying a digital asset that goes up in value or down in value, not for speculation's purpose, but because that digital asset acts like a ticket, just like any other ticket to a basketball game, whatever it does, right? But this ticket gets me access to something special. And it can be a ticket that's a one-time use, or it could be an ongoing thing that gives me access to premium content, premium events, exclusive events, one-on-one meetups, whatever, right? And depending on the value of that, or just what utility is tied to that behind the scenes NFT, but really a digital asset. Reality is everything in our lives is a digital asset, right? Every time I send a text message, there's a little digital asset that goes somewhere. Our profile, my profile on Facebook and Instagram, whatever, they're all digital assets. Every song that I write is a digital asset that's out there. Digital assets are not new to us. NFTs are just a way that a digital asset can be stored and referenced on the blockchain. But bottom line is, we're using that structure to make those digital assets and experiences tradable so that you can then have cool experiences with those teams. And so again, I don't need to spend a whole lot of time on sports because you can go to cougsrise.com. Our BYU example of this, we have a much bigger one coming that I'm so excited to tell you guys about. We're ironing out the final details here, and it's going to be so much better than it even initially was. And we've had many hours of calls with these groups, and it's going to be very exciting. But I just believe that fans want to have the opportunity to buy their way into having an experience. It's a once in a lifetime experience, right? Or maybe a 10 times in a lifetime experience if they keep buying it. And so with that in mind, I want to move to another idea. Creators or media, like a TV show, right? I think a TV show is very similar. The reason I move over to that is because I think it's very similar. And artists are going to fall right into the same thing, but we'll do a TV show next. And we'll take one, we'll take The Office, because it's The Office and I like The Office, and I have Office stuff all over my office. And my employees always buy me stuff from The Office because they think I love The Office, and they're right. So keep doing that, boys. Thank you. I really appreciate that. But bottom line is, right now today, let's do a share screen again, just for fun. If I want to engage with The Office, right, I can go to Facebook, and I can type in, or this might be faster if I just go to The Office Facebook, and if I go The Office Instagram and The Office Twitter, this will just bring me right to these pages here. So I can click on these different places here: Office on Peacock here, Office Instagram, right? And this is fine. This is fun. I can come in here and I can see, hey, this is great. Dwight's funny. He's awesome. And Pam, and you've got all these cool things here. But all I'm doing, this is one way. It's very one way. Again, it's that connection. It's that we're throwing something up, but there's no connection. It's just like you're hitting this wall of nothingness. And I think that is a major societal problem today, is that we spend so much time interacting with nothing. Now, it's cool. There's actors, and they're working hard, and they're producing stuff, and it's funny, and we laugh. And yes, you can create connections. You can create sideways connections, right, with people. For example, I can watch The Office with my wife, and I can improve the relationship I have with my wife by watching The Office together, right? If that's something we like to do, or watching whatever together. If we actually connect and communicate, if we just sit there and we both watch, then we're just both throwing ourselves into nothingness while having nothing in between us. So that's not great. But again, it's all one way. It's funny. It's good. And I could probably spend a lot of time on here just laughing, right? There's good stuff here, right? Michael Spanking Luke, good stuff. And I can joke about it all day long. But again, I'm not connecting. Now, the Web3 approach that could be powered through the Ocavu network, and there's other ways to do this, not just inside the Ocavu network, but we do provide a framework where this can happen, is what if all of the actors in the office, even the writers of the office, the extras that were in the office, like everybody that was there, that was involved in whatever way, was all of a sudden part of a platform, a unified platform around the office. And you could buy digital assets that gave you special access. And maybe there's just a base level where you pay $5 a month or something, you get access to more premium content, more behind the scenes content that you can't get anywhere else. I know right now Peacock is doing that in a pretty decent way by offering the extended versions of each episode on Peacock. And so they're creating at least a deeper community for the office there and having it happen inside of their own platform. So they're doing pretty good, but that's really just a distribution element and trying to get people to subscribe to a service, which is good. They're doing good things there. I really don't have anything against Peacock, but the office could do so much more. And I don't know what the dollar amount is, but if Michael Scott put up that he could meet with people, or if you could meet Dwight, or if you could meet Pam or whoever, right? You can meet John Krasinski in person or have a dinner with them or do whatever, like those types of experiences, the dollar amounts are amazing, right? And again, it's not all about money, but yeah, it is to some degree. These creators are doing this so that they can make a living and they want to do what they love. But a TV show can give access to that. Now there's one website that does this really well. I don't even know if I've never even been to their what do you call it, web thing. I've literally only ever been in their app. Now this is pretty cool. Cameo's onto the right thing here, where you can have real connections with people. And you know, I actually did this with the office and had them help me with our announcement of changing Seek to Ocavu. But here I can come in here. There you go. See, they're the top one. They're obviously very popular, but I can pay $180, $100, $99, whatever, to get different actors. We got a lot of these people to help out here, right? But I can come in here and I can pay $299 and he'll say whatever I want him to say. That's cool. Now there's not a lot of interaction between me and him, but there's a little bit, right? There's a little bit. And you know, there's no live interaction. It's just like, hey, say something about this. And you just kind of type out a little description and then they do their best. And they do pretty good. They're actors, they're professional, they know what they're doing. And so I believe Cameo has a great product, right? But inside of the Ocavu network, they could add the ability to allow people to connect together and then offer real life experiences and exclusives in a way that then becomes more personal and real connections, but also becomes tradable. That's part of what the NFT marketplace brings to the table, which is really cool for the digital asset marketplace, right? Being able to trade those experiences and that access together, right? So great. The office is awesome. We could go on and look at other, you know, groups, you know, let's just for fun, we'll just pull up another one that we've talked about before. Imagine Dragons, right? These guys also incredible. Dan Reynolds is somebody who's very vocal about wanting to connect more with fans, wanting to have more real experiences. He throws things out there, but doesn't get to have tons of one-on-one experiences with people. And I know that he enjoys that. And I believe that the same type of structure could be employed here, right? I think there's really cool things. These guys want to help, they want to contribute, they want to connect with people in real ways. And they just need a structure, right? They just need a structure, and we can provide that. And so again, I think that when you look at influencers as a whole, right, you go from Imagine Dragons to Dude Perfect to, you know, The Office to athletes, right? I call it, all of those are going to fall under influencers ultimately, that they have this common thread. They can set up a system that allows them to connect in more real ways, right? So that's a big common thread. Another big common thread here, I think, that's important is that I've talked about before, but I just want to point out how important it is. And this is going to apply to all of these, you know, influencers and brands and tech companies and whatever, right? Is where the information lives. right? Where my information lives in relation to Imagine Dragons, right? If I really care about Imagine Dragons and I really want to connect to them in a big way, I don't mind if they have my email address. In fact, I subscribe to their things. I can go to their website, right? Imagine Dragons, I think it's music.com. Could be wrong, but I think I'm right. I'm right. So I can come here and I can subscribe. I can buy things from their store. I can, poke around their website. But the reality is, and I know this firsthand, these guys get very, very, very few people coming to their website. Nobody goes to people's websites. Why? This is boring. Sorry, Imagine Dragons, I love your music, but your website is boring. I can buy a shirt, a t-shirt, a sweater. I can buy an album or maybe a vinyl or something occasionally if you have that. Buy a CD, right? Or I can just click on these things and go to the platforms. I can maybe see where tickets are. But I have no reason. I have almost zero reason to come here again in the next year. There's nothing inviting me back here ever. But they're trying to build up a community. All of these groups are, all of these subgroups that I'm talking about are trying to build up communities that they can talk to, that they can influence, that they can share their ideas with, that they can connect with. And they're doing it on platforms where they don't have any control. Instagram owns this community. I don't care if it's Peacock or NBC Universal or whatever. Instagram owns these 2.2 million followers. Instagram is the only group that knows what these followers' email address is, who they are, what else they like, all that stuff, right? The Office can get access to some of that, not the email addresses. They can get access to some of the other things they like and target them and whatever. But if the Office, for whatever reason, is deplatformed because they say, sorry, Michael Scott's just a little bit too much for us in 2022, well, they're gone. They lost 2.2 million followers. They have no community. All of a sudden, it's gone. And groups like Imagine Dragons, like Dude Perfect, like athletic teams and other people like that, they're worried about this. Influencers are very, very worried about what happens if they get deplatformed. And there's obviously very high profile cases of that happening, more and more, right? You get canceled by somebody or you say something that the owner of Twitter doesn't like or whatever, and you're gone, right? Or there was a huge scare that still could happen. It's not done yet, that Facebook could get shut down in Europe. What if you just lost your entire European audience overnight? That's crazy. That's really, really, really difficult. So it's crazy that we keep spending so much time doing this, right? Social media, everyone that's listening to me knows this. Social media was built to connect with people, and then immediately it got monetized. It became a highway for billboards. And that's all it is now, right? Even influencers don't really care about anything other than how many followers do I have and how much can I monetize them for, right? And that's probably harsh. That's probably not true. I think there's influencers. I think most influencers really do want to connect with people. I'm sure there's some that are just in it for the money, but the reality is that's just what's been given to them. Social media was just turned into a big marketing engine. That's why it's free. That's why it's free to the user. You're the product, right? The more people follow, the more you can charge to a brand or whatever to get their product in front of you, their message in front of you. With the Ocavu network, you could set up, and guys, you don't even have to use the Ocavu network. Imagine Dragons, you should have your best content. You should be posting here every day. You should have live events on your website every other day, once a week, once a month, whatever, right? But I should want to come here every single day because every time I come here, you have my full and undivided attention. If you catch me on Instagram, you've got me for 1 second as I scroll past. You might catch me for a second and I'm good and I go to the next thing. But if I'm here, if you've given me a reason to come here every day, you're going to make 10 to 100 times more money off of me, right? And I'm going to willingly pay because I want to interact with you. I want to engage with you. I want to engage with the office. I want to engage with whatever. I have a number of different groups that I would follow, maybe 20 to 50 to 100 at different levels. Some of them I'd be at the highest tier saying, hey, I really want to connect with that person. John Williams. I pay a lot of money to hang out with John Williams, right? He might be too old for this stuff, and that's fine. But his music's incredible, and I want to talk to him. Maybe he's in good enough health that he can get on a Zoom call with me, and I can spend 20 minutes asking him 50 questions if I can get him out that fast. Okay. But the point is, I don't have a reason to come here today, and that's wrong. That's messed up. Imagine Dragons is leaving so much opportunity on the table. Social platforms are convenient. That I will give you, right? They're convenient, and that's why they're popular. It's because it's a centralized location where I can come and hear about tons of things and see all of the different groups I follow in one place. And that's nice. But what it does is it creates a void. Like I've been talking about, it doesn't allow for that real connection to happen. And remember, Web3 is about interconnectedness and openness. And the social media of today is just not getting that done. It's not happening. It's trying. Instagram just launched a new feature where you can pay $5.99 a month or whatever. I don't know if you can change the prices or whatever, but I've seen it on a bunch of different profiles. Pay $5.99 a month, and now you get access to premium content, right? And the brand or the influencer or whoever can start posting different stuff that's exclusive to its subscribers. Good job. Good job, Instagram. You're moving in the right direction. But the influencers are still at the mercy of the platform. They can't even choose what they charge. They are limited in their ability to deliver because it's just posts right now. It's just posts. That's all you can do. And they still don't own the email address or phone number or name or anything about that person. And so they can't really connect with them, especially if that platform goes down for whatever reason, gets shut down, deplatformed, whatever, all the risks that are associated with that. I believe that every single group out there should go back to, in a little bit, the Web 1 way of let's have a website and a brochure, but let's make it more than a brochure. Let's do all of the things that the internet can do now and give me a reason to come here every day. Use social to drive me to the website. Oh, that's cool. That's hey, check out this new things on the website today. Hey, there's this new behind the scenes thing. Click here. Boom, comes up to my thing, and I have my membership. And the Ocavu network is built in a way that allows for people to have subscriptions, to buy one-time NFTs, to buy one-time digital collectibles, to use that structure to gate content and gate access to their best followers, right? They could say, hey, we're going to give 100 spots of our best content out to the people that hold these digital assets, right? And maybe you get tired of hearing all that Imagine Dragons has to say in their exclusive thing, and you're like, hey, you know what? There's someone that's willing to pay me $2,500 to get in this exclusive club. And not only is that person then excited, the person that bought it gets to sell it and make money, maybe, or maybe they don't. Maybe Imagine Dragons goes down, but that's not the point of it, right? The open market decides value of anything, just like a stock, right? But Imagine Dragons is making royalties every time that trades hands. Every single time somebody else says, hey, I want in, and somebody's going to pay more or less or whatever, it doesn't matter. Imagine Dragons continues to get paid for that art over and over and over and over again. So again, I don't purport to have all of the answers here. I like the idea of centralized access. I think it's easy and nice to be able to come to one place and find all kinds of things that I care about. But I don't believe that the social network paradigms are capable of delivering the real connection that I think people are seeking today. And I don't think that they have the capabilities of managing communities at scale for the community. The community is not the focus of these platforms. The platform is the focus of these platforms. And that's the problem. The incentives are misaligned. They're not hitting the right spots. So yeah, I'd love comments from the gallery. I'm just kind of talking. I will talk about brands for a second. I think brands are not dissimilar from influencers. They have sorry, let's turn that off. That's okay. They still have fans. There's just their customers, right? And brands, if they do it right, do have fans. Like they actually have fans. And I think that there's big opportunities lost there as well. Now brands do have one advantage on influencers, a pretty big one. Usually when you're a brand, you do have the email address of the person that you're talking to, right? But I still think there are missed opportunities. I think there are ways to have community get more involved, get more engaged. You should have your top 1% telling you how to make your next products. And brands do this today through Qualtrics surveys and, hey, net promoter scores. What on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you like this thing? Or 0 to 10. And you click 7 and they're like, great, thanks for connecting with us, right? But I think there's ways where you could say, hey, buy this digital collectible. We're going to give 20 spots away, or we're going to sell 20 spots, and you guys can trade them on the marketplace if you want, whatever. But then we're going to give you a behind the scenes tour of the Coca-Cola factory, one that's never before seen, right? We're going to go take you behind there and we're going to tell you what we're working on and what's coming next. And we're going to take you, to the factories where we make these, shoes that are made here in Connecticut or whatever, right? There are ways that you can connect as a brand with your fans, with that top 1%, or maybe the top 1% of the 1%, right? And you can get tremendous value from them. You can make your products better, and you can make their experience better. And they'll go sell the heck out of your product. They'll talk about it. They'll throw it on social media so that everybody sees it. And if you have a nice centralized community on your website, you can bring more people in. You can have more ways for people to connect. You can get a tighter feedback loop with all of your people. I think that's what Web3 is going to bring to brands, to D2C brands, lifestyle brands, by closing that loop. Today, it's there's good ads out there, right? There's a brand that my wife loves, Jessa K or whatever. Here we go. It's a great, these are just dresses, right? I just know that when I'm buying a dress for my wife, this is where I'm going to go buy it, because she loves it, right? Good stuff. And they make good ads. They make good stuff. They make good products, but they're not really connecting with their users as much as I think they could, right? They create great inclusive products. They're awesome, right? But if I click on something here, I'm obsessed. Okay, cool. So great. It's just a bunch of digital pats on the back. There's no real value there. There's qualitative, hey, this is a nice reaction, or a bunch of loves or likes or whatever, and it sells, the dress sells out. Of course, that's quantitative, information, and that's fantastic. But I think if you created ways for people to be part of a club, I don't know, right? I could give that to my wife for Christmas, right? And some sort of digital asset that lets her be part of some exclusive thing that lets them get on. I think this is the founder. I think this girl right here is the founder, but lets them get on with her and talk about, hey, what's coming? What do you like? Why do you like my stuff? And I'm sure she has those conversations. I really don't know how she runs her business. She's probably incredible at doing it. She puts out a good product. But I believe that Web3 opens up new opportunities. I believe that Web3 opens up ways to automate a lot of that, to create more inclusive campaigns that involve their fans in bigger, more direct ways, right? So I think that's really exciting. So I'll say the last group, because I did mention this in my post, tech companies. I think tech companies are no different than Jessa K. And one of the companies that probably does the best, I don't think I follow them, but we'll just look them up and see if they're here. Qualtrics. Qualtrics is, naturally they're a survey company. They know what their customers think. They're constantly asking. They're one of the most valuable companies, if not the most valuable company in Utah. I could be wrong. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but they were, they were going to IPO for about $4 billion, and they got acquired for over $8 billion, like 4 days before the IPO. Then they went private again, and then they went public again. They're crazy. They keep selling the company over and over again. I don't know how they're doing that, but that's neither here nor there. Ultimately, these guys are geniuses at talking to their customers. They're incredibly good at experience management, which is really people management, right? They're trying to figure out how to connect with people. And they do a great job at that. So good job. Kudos to Qualtrics, who's local here in Utah. But back to Ocavu. Ocavu is focused on building a system, and we have built a system that is, we have 10 features that are about to be released, which are really exciting, which will affect anyone who's on Kooks Rise or other communities. We're building a system that allows communities to take control, to be able to add these types of features where you have digital collectibles, you have experiences, you have commenting and threads and things that all happen right on the website that bring an influencer's website to life, and even pull in all of the data and information that's happening on Instagram and Twitter and other things, and pull it all together into one place, so that if I'm an Imagine Dragons fan, maybe I click on that bookmark a little bit more often, right? Maybe I want to be on that website a little bit more often. I think that there are opportunities being missed here, and I don't think people are bad for doing it the way that they have. It's just, this is how it's evolved, and I think this is the next step. I think that this is the next step in evolution for community engagement, for fan engagement. I believe that Ocavu is doing that in an incredible way. We are creating solutions that make it possible for these brands and groups, tech brands, D2C brands, influencers, artists, sport teams, leagues, etc., to find new ways to reward those that create the most value. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to, right? Creators put out way more than they get back. And maybe that's part of what being a creator is, or at least that's what has defined it for probably millennia, probably since the beginning of time. Creators don't get back what they deserve for what they put into it. Most. There's a few that break through and have some lucky break or whatever happens, and they make a lot of money. But a lot of creators weren't celebrated or rewarded in their lifetime, right? You can look at all of the Renaissance artists, right, as an example. But many of them are discovered later, or they they put hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and days and months and years into creating something that they really believe in. And the systems today don't adequately reward them. I've talked about my music before, but I'll say it again for those that haven't heard it. But I'm a musician, and I again, I'm sitting here in my studio right here, and I'll spend a lot of time slaving over a song, right, for 48, 50 hours working on one song, right? Is getting all the different instrument tracks right, and getting the reverbs right, tweaking every little thing, and not to mention just the actual composing and thinking of the ideas and all of that. It is soul draining. I enjoy it. I enjoy composing. I enjoy the end result. And I love the fact that other people get to listen to it. But the reality is, when hundreds of thousands of people listen to my music, I get, if you boil that down to those individual, interactions, I created something, one person enjoyed something. I get fractions of a penny every time I create value in somebody's life. And yeah, economies of scale can potentially fix that, but I think the economies of scale are broken. I think they're way too small. I think the artists are not getting enough. I think there's a lot of value created there that it just doesn't adequately pay the artist, right? Whether it's a musician or an artist or the people working on a movie or whatever it is, right? There's a select few that get a lot of money, and most people don't, right? Most people just don't. And I believe that this could be a system where, and let's take me as an example, and I plan on doing this, guys. So watch for the John Cheney Club, the website. johncheney.com is my website right now. You can go there right now. And my website right now is nothing more than a brochure with some music on it, and you can order some products in an e-commerce store. It's not nothing, it's fine. But what if I focused on my top 1% of fans, which isn't a lot, right? I've got, 10,000 fans across a couple platforms. And I guess one of them has maybe a lot more than that. But bottom line is, what if I could get my top 200 fans to pay me $10 a month, right? It's not much, but maybe I could provide enough value that they thought it was worth $10 a month or $20 a month, right? And then I could bring in an extra $2,000 to $4,000 a month, right? That's awesome, right? Every little bit counts, right? That's a great family vacation every year, really good one, right? And so I believe that Web3 is going to change the world in ways that even I didn't quite understand until today, and I think that I'm still just beginning to grasp. But I think most of the market out there doesn't really know what they're saying when they're going to a Web3 conference, they think they're going to go and talk about Bored Apes and that they think they're talking about Web3. No, that is so wrong. It is so wrong. They need to be talking about how to make data more available and what happens when that data becomes more available and interconnected. What new types of insights can we learn about humanity, about ourselves? What types of products, discoveries, medical discoveries, scientific discoveries, social discoveries, whatever it is, what types of things can come out of Web3 when it's done right? Something to think about today. Thanks, guys. We're going to end it there. Have a wonderful day. John out.